The thing about Todd is that he's made a film about love and yearning and how dangerous love is.
Really, it's just a love story. Yes, it's between two women, but hopefully one day we won't have to have that. We won't have to talk about it. It'll just be normal.
The thing that I responded to when I read the book and I read the script was how incredibly universal it was and how much it reminded me of being in Therese's shoes, falling in love with somebody, not knowing where I stood, not knowing how they felt in return. You know, it's a very, very universal feeling. When I read The Price of Salt, the novel that Carol's based on by Patricia Highsmith, the intense, almost claustrophobic relationship of that subjectivity being locked inside Therese's festering mind, to me spoke volumes about the experience of falling in love, the distortions of falling in love, and the isolation that we often feel at the very beginnings of love, you know? And the way we fabricate and construct everything. You know, all kinds of scenarios and fantasies and potential run-ins with our object of desire. And interestingly, that's exactly how she treats the criminal mind in her crime novels. And so crime and love are linked in a very specific way. It was really interesting to me.
The book is odd because it's very much like a Highsmithian book. It's not a thriller, but it has elements of strange sadness and melancholy, and Carol is quite the depressive. But what's wonderful about it is that it explores that feeling of simply falling in love. It's, of course, a love story or an examination of how a love can develop. But it also has the usual Highsmithian tone of underlying menace. Balancing the tone is a tricky thing in Highsmith adaptations.
Oh, my darling!
He's got an outsider's perspective, but he's got such an incredible heart. And when he called and said that he'd read the script and he would really love to do it, I of course assumed he's made Far From Heaven. He understands the period. It'll be a Douglas Sirk-esque sort of Jewel-like experience. But when he started showing me all the references of all these female photographers who were working in the 1950s, whose work was never realised in their lifetime, Vivian Maier, for instance, whose work I didn't know, his visual references, were so unexpected. All that sense of New York in the 50s in reflection. You know, that sense of a woman only being seen in the reflection of the men that she was connected to. The kind of the meta vision for the film was really exciting, and that's the extraordinary thing about Todd, is he's able to bring an outsider's perspective into the mainstream of light of cinema. So he has such a he's sort of got a foot in both camps, and working with him, you feel like at once you're working on a big scale, a big vision picture, but he's still got that art school indie filmmaker mentality, so that you feel like you're creating something new and fresh. It's really exciting to work with him.
All the departments of film, they're all important. All of the creative work that goes into making a film is so essential. It's so beyond what the director does. And so you really need to trust and respect and listen to all of your partners, you know, and maybe it's something as simple as that, that they feel supported, that there's a foundation underneath them to give them the freedom to do what they do best.
I want to create a world that I think the characters would have lived in and that the actors feel helps them understand their characters. So, and these were two very different characters. They come from different economic classes and different socioeconomic classes, and they're at different points in their life. Carol has reached a point in her, she's basically having a midlife crisis, and she's reached a point in her life where she's done a lot, but she's not happy. And Therese doesn't know what she wants to do yet. So there's a very young character, and not just in age, but in their position in life, and an older character. And one has a lot of money and one doesn't. So, you know, it's a contrast. It's of contrasting worlds, and it's very interesting to play with contrasting worlds.
It wasn't something we worked on. Again, it was all in the script. All of those nuances, I wish that I could take credit for them, but it was all there in the writing. And
not the look in your eyes when you look at each other. That's something different.
Well, that's, I mean, when you're looking at Cate, you just have that look in your eyes.
I think there's very few actresses who can play the protagonist in The Girl from Dragon Tattoo and then play this almost sort of cultish, Audrey Hepburn-esque, demure, exposed, raw character that Therese is. I mean, she's got such impeccable taste. She's incredibly intelligent, very pragmatic and workmanlike in the way she approaches a role. But she's fearless and has this extraordinary range. You know, I loved working with her, and I was really, really excited when Todd said that she was going to play the role.
Allow me a stupid question, but how does it feel to be on the red carpet tonight?
It's a little bit overwhelming, I have to say. It's been many years, and look who I get to share the red carpet with.
I was very nervous. I was wondering whether it was just because I had a lot of coffee, and I think I don't know that I've ever been here with a film in competition, and there's a slightly different texture around it. You know, I've been here with very different films, but everyone involved in Carol, it was a real labour of love, and the script had been around for 15 years, and so I'm really proud to have been, you know, my partner Andrew Upton and I, to have been part of the producerial team that got it together. You know, it feels very important and special to everyone who's involved in making it.
I mean, I think we are still very much stuck in the past, and just like Cate was saying earlier, there's 70 countries that it's still illegal. It is shocking and frustrating, but I do also feel like we've made some progress, and we shouldn't just dismiss that progress. But there is still a lot of progress that needs to be made.
I think it would be foolish to not acknowledge the progress we've made, the speed of a society changing before our very eyes about these things. I mean, I never would have imagined. Apparently there's a poll out in the United States that says more Americans would vote for a gay president than a Christian evangelical president. That's a change that could only be true in the last 5-10 years. You know, that's fast for most societies. So while all of that is true, obviously,
so many other things.
Yes, obviously that is not true everywhere in the world.
It's a love story, of course, and you know, I think it's got a much broader reach than being a niche experience. But I think what makes it dangerous, perhaps, and unusual still in this day and age is its love between two women.
I suppose we've made tons of mainstream progress. So now one can get married, and if one wishes, and we're in Los Angeles or New York or London or Paris, and these are fairly sophisticated and privileged places, or they can be. But if we probably drive 100 miles north, we will encounter communities where we are not welcome. And we won't perhaps be killed for that. Maybe that's the progress we've made. But every day you read stories about gay, lesbian, transgender people really suffering.
Do you feel that a movie like Carol can help in this way, can help to change the, be a kind of help?
I hope. I mean, insofar as films can never help to change anything, what I would hope is that it actually impresses even 2 or 3 young people about the need for an honest identity. So I hope the film helps in that way.
Of course, the women's gender, the fact that they're two women falling in love, and in the 1950s when such love was, well, if it was men it would be considered criminal, but it wasn't even worthy enough of calling criminal. It was just a kind of an extension of female hysteria. You know, that's really important, but I think the film is more than that. And so I think it's you realize you witness people falling in love for the first time, and all of the dangers, the human aspect of that, which I think is really powerful. And I think that's what makes the film, dare I say, important maybe, but important sounds like it's not. There's no pleasure in seeing it. I think you get swept away by the love story.